ways. I know how they feel. They're great. They're loyal. They want to bang for their buck.
Hold up. Hold up. Hope you're ready for the next episode. Hey.
Welcome, everybody, to another installment of the LarschCast show, and we have a great one for you today. We are joined by a legendary broadcaster here in Vancouver, Port Moody's very own Don Taylor from Donnie and Dhali on ChekTV. Back home, Donnie, how are you doing?
Very good. Now, I have to correct you. I hate to do that, but I've moved to the Port Moody area in the last 15, 16 years. I'm very much North Burnaby.
Okay.
Anybody I grew up with, if they heard me introduced as Port Moody's Don Taylor, I would have a big problem with it.
Yeah, that Burnaby crowd's pretty tight.
And you don't want to mess with those guys. And I graduated from Alpha.
So did my dad. That's a rough neighborhood back there. Yeah.
Well, so he's from North Burnaby, or he graduated from Alpha?
Both. Grew up North Burnaby and graduated from Alpha as well,
so
too.
Him and I are the only people to actually have graduated from Alpha. So
I think you're two of the four. Yeah.
That's right. Yeah.
Well, you just had a little canoe ride over the water there to Port Moody.
There you go. That's true. Yeah.
There you go.
So I want to start off just by congratulating you actually on all the success that you're having now with the new show, Donnie and Dhali. It is really refreshing for, the local market to have a local station providing local content for local sports fans. And, given all the cuts that have happened here with Rogers and Bell Media recently. And so congratulations on all your success. We love it. We love watching and listening. I want to ask you, what makes that show run so good though? Like what's that dynamic with you and Rick and Ryan Henderson? Why is it so successful?
I think it's because of something you just said. First of all, Rick and I are old friends. We go back 25 years and always had a good chemistry together. He's quite the character. And Ryan and I know each other for a long time from our days at the Funny Station. And so there's that. I knew that I would get along with those guys, but also something you just said there about, BC and Vancouver sports and Victoria sports, BC sports. And having that focus. I think one of the important things in broadcasting and a lot of aspects of life is to have a focus. Mm-hmm. And, with everything that goes on back east with TSN, with Sportsnet, and calling themselves national when we all know they're regional, and we all know that they focus on Toronto more than anything else. We just thought the door was wide open for something that really focused on British Columbia sports, the Canucks, the Lions, the Whitecaps, things in Victoria, Okanagan, whatever the case may be. It's really underserved right now. So I thought that was kind of a no-brainer, and Chek was right on board with that as well. Mm-hmm. So we're really happy about that. So I think having a focus is number one for us.
Mm-hmm.
So, you say you have the focus, and, definitely it's very natural for you to, do that show. So how did that come about? Whose idea was it? Was it, collaborative? Did you guys were on the same page to begin with, or was it, one of you that said, we should go ahead and do this?
I think it just, honestly, it was kind of just organic. It was just kind of obvious. We never really talked about it. We knew we were going to take our radio show over to TV, but I think even more so, and podcast form. But I think because we'd been let go by Bell, there was sort of an anger towards Toronto, even if we didn't express it. So that made it even easier to focus on, and we take our shots at them as well, to focus. But it kind of came out of nowhere. The day we got let go was February 9th. We got a call from a gentleman named Rob Germain from ChekTV. Now, I didn't know much. I grew up with ChekTV. A lot of us did, right? And I didn't know their whole story, but their story blew me away. They're an employee-owned station. They were going to get blown up by CanWest Global in 2009. The employees and some local businesses, one in particular in Victoria, stepped up and bought the station. And they were the ones who said, Rob Germain, the big boss there, the general manager, said, we'd like to take your radio show over to our TV station and see what we could do with it. It kind of went from there. But their story was so awesome. And I know that your show is not that old. And, you start, as you progress in this business, you'll find out you'll have fond memories of what you're doing right now. And when they called from Victoria, a smaller town, not as big as Vancouver, which is where I'm from and Rick's from and Ryan's from, when they called and they told us their story about being community owned, about the employees being in a union. Not that that's for everybody, but it is how I started. And it's how Rick started as well. I started in Dawson Creek. Rick started in Fort St. John. We all started with these small stations, and it just really reminded me of that. And those stations had a focus. They were focused on the community. And so it just, all of that really reminded me of that, of how we started. So it was really a no-brainer, and it kind of went from there. And it's been a really good experience so far. So it just takes me back to, you know, when I first started in this business, when it wasn't so corporate. And
Yeah, no, it's a good little story there. And you know,
cool.
you've talked a bit about how you've been let go a couple of times in this market, and you know, those times have been really vocal in the Vancouver area, and you know, it's been a big deal. So I have to ask you this: how long before Czech lets you go, or Rick kicks you off?
did you see today's show? It could be in the next 72 hours. So. Yeah, okay. So one of the other things too is that, you know, I hate to use the phrase back in the day, but I'm old and I use it a lot. You could say a lot more than you do now, but we tend to let loose a lot and even get into innuendo, which I think
that's the best part.
Especially Rick is just
The
so
crooked cane.
but in a great way all the time. And so we kind of jump on that all the time. So to answer your question, like I said, it could be this weekend that we get let go. But so far they've been great. Here's the thing. We do these immature little things. You know, we talk about, Rick says something that he shouldn't have said. And we
Usually Rick, right?
it is
He's the guy.
But, you know, I don't want to repeat. I don't want to get you guys in trouble. But here's the thing.
Hey, you can say whatever you want on this show.
That's true. Okay.
We're podcast. Yeah.
That's true. He was talking about, playing chess with the computer and that he beats it quite often. So we went on about that for a long, long time. Look, I know it's immature. I know there's now this kind of a trend towards really highbrow, political, intelligent humor out there.
Mm-hmm.
And the reality is that most guys still laugh at that immature.
100%.
I'm sorry,
the locker room stuff. Yeah.
Thank you very much. They still laugh at it. So we're not going to hold off on that. As long as we're not getting canned or threatened, I'm okay with it. People still laugh at this stuff, and we're kidding ourselves thinking that we don't. So I'm sorry. That's how I grew up. I grew up with four brothers. It's like, that's the way we were. Played a lot of hockey, lacrosse. That's the way I know my friends. We all laugh at that stuff. Mm-hmm. So let's not try to pretend we're a highbrow or anything like that.
Yeah.
Well, I could definitely say it's the number one reason that I've been listening to you over the years.
Yeah.
But I gotta ask, it's just fun. You just feel like you're in on an inside joke when you're watching the show all the time. It feels like you're with buddies and you're in on an inside joke. Just as somebody who listens quite frequently, that's how it feels.
Oh, that's great to hear. That's great to hear.
Well, keep it up. We love it. But I have a question just about the profile that is, because you are kind of a local legend. Obviously, we have all grown up with you, and you talk quite frequently about being a hockey coach and a hockey dad. And what are the dynamics of having the profile that you do and also being a hockey parent? Like, are you constantly inundated by armchair GMs sharing their opinion, or has it died down as you've been at it longer, or people used to you, or what's it like?
You know what? I mean, people are really respectful. And I think a lot of that has to do with, some of them, the majority of them don't have a clue who I am. So that's good. So
really?
How is that possible?
I find that hard to believe. What are you talking about?
Yeah. Well, some of them aren't necessarily from here, but people are really respectful. And I think they know. You guys, I don't know if any of you have coached before, but I played a lot.
Yeah, I've coached it.
Okay. I played a lot of hockey. I've watched a lot of hockey. So I get coerced into, and it took some convincing, into coaching 10 years ago. And of course I'm thinking, this is go through some cones and, have a scrimmage. And I realized the moment I stepped on the ice with a bunch of kids, how little I really know at the time, and still don't know that much. And hats off to all the coaches out there, the minor hockey coaches and just coaches in general, the job they do. It's really hard to get kids to do the right things. And people think they know, how to do a breakout, what to do for a warm up, what to do.
Or how to teach it to a bunch of kids,
that's almost as hard.
Yeah, exactly. And you always got a couple of kids who are problems in the group. And so there's just so much to it. And I'm not sure that changes even when they get older. There's so many elements to it. Like, for instance, here's one thing that I never thought of. You've got a practice plan drawn up, okay? And it's for 12 skaters and 2 goalies. You get there, 8 skaters have shown up and 1 goalie. And oh, by the way, you're only using half the ice because there's enough on the ice. Well, you're messed up. So what do? Experience is great, and having a backup plan is even better. So there's just so much to it, and it's really been a great learning experience. But to get back to the root of the question here, the parents, 99% of them, hockey parents take a really hard time. They get a really hard time. 99% of them are great. The 1%, and they're beauties, they tend to dominate, and we tend to focus on them. But most of them are working their asses off for their kids, driving them around, doing all sorts of things, scorekeeping, timekeeping, whatever the coaching, whatever the case may be. Most of them are great. And most of them are really respectful, no matter what occupation you have.
I want to ask you about your like, toughest coaching decision that you've made so far, and I'll share a story. So my first year coaching, the assistant coach, his son plays goalie, and here we are in the playoffs. We're doing a rotation the whole year and into the playoffs. Yes. And now we are at the final game. And I go with the back-to-back goaltender, the hot hand, because he had a phenomenal game.
Sure.
Ruined a relationship with this guy.
Really?
All year long. I actually went to school with his daughter too, high school and SFU. So it ruined the relationship, but we won the championship. Yeah. So it's kind of a tough dynamic you have to deal with in minor hockey, because it upset him, and the whole, he was kind of on the bench all growly in the whole game, and his son was growly, and so it kind of ruined everything. But I want to ask you, what was the toughest coaching decision you've had to make in minor hockey?
Oh God, there's quite a few. I mean, I have been involved. I've never been paid. Okay, I should mention that. I've always been a volunteer, but I have coached rep teams, and I've made cuts. And there was, I don't even want to tell this story because
well, no names, but
no names. I cut a kid, and it was me, and I had advice, but I was the head coach, so it was Pee Wee, and so I cut a kid. I felt it was justified. Other people did as well. The dad was pretty upset. Okay, so really upset, lip quivering, upset. Okay. And I'm like, so fine. And I'm like, this guy he's really mad at me, like really upset, like emotional, the whole bit. And so I decide to look him up on Facebook or Twitter, and I realize that he's a gun enthusiast.
Oh no.
Oh, damn.
So
after you cut his kid.
Go to practice now, and that insurance policy, I think you're going to be able to cash in on it. But everything worked out. But I didn't make that decision before I knew that. But it's always hard. And I'll tell you this is some advice. I'll never do that again. Like if I, as a volunteer coach of a rep team, never again. Someone else can make the cuts, and you can just plop me in there, because you're dealing with people you're going to see again. I'm not getting paid. I'm volunteering. And it's just not a good situation. It gets emotional. It's really difficult. If I was getting paid some, decent money, which some people are in minor hockey, then maybe, but it just wasn't worth it. And, looking back, I would never have done that again. I would have kept the kid.
Who's worse though? Hockey moms or hockey dads in your experience?
Oh, I think it's 50-50.
All right.
Eyebrow.
That's a great answer.
With both. But I would say it's more difficult to deal with the moms because they're moms. I mean, you can't.
Yeah, it's tougher. Absolutely, I agree with that. Yeah,
I think, and it's not their fault. It's my fault for the way I feel. Like I just have total respect for, and not that I don't have respect for dads. I'm one. But it's, who gets mad at a mom? Come on.
You just feel guilty after.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so we'll talk Canucks in a bit, but I got another question here for you, Donnie. Is you've been in sportscasting, broadcasting, sports journalism for a long time now. So you talked about always having a backup plan as a coach. Go into a lesson. Yeah. What was your backup plan for your career? If you weren't in sports, what would you be doing?
Oh, that's a great question. A lot. I was really into art as in high school. Really into.
You can see behind you there too.
A lot of my family, yeah, exactly. A lot of my family was into art, and so something involved in that. My brother-in-law, my late brother-in-law, a gentleman by the name of Dave Henshaw, lived in Campbell River, and he was a really successful fisherman. And in fact, the plan was just before I went up north, I got my diploma from Columbia. I was, thought, okay, if this might not work out, so I'm going to go up and fish with Dave. And he had a seine boat, and that was going to be, so who knows what would have happened. So getting back to what I was talking about originally is I always loved drawing and painting and taking art classes and stuff like that. Like I say, it's in my blood through my dad's side of the family. And lucky enough, I got into radio and TV, which has a real artistic component to it, especially when you're talking about writing, when you're talking about editing, working with videotape at the time and all of that. So it all worked out. But the backup plan would have been something to do in the field of art or maybe working on a fishing boat, which at the time was, I don't even know what it's like now, but it was extremely lucrative. It still
is. I take customers out sturgeon fishing, and it's like $3,000 for a day.
Sure. And so that maybe something like that. That was, a lot of times you head towards what your family is involved in. So that was one of the plans.
That's very cool. All right, so we could have been hiring you to do fishing tours and hearing your stories then.
Absolutely.
So I have one more quick one. This is a personal one that I really want to know the answer to as well too. Like I say, I've been watching you a long time. You're kind of locally known as kind of one of the masters of the catchphrase or the turn of phrase when you're doing a show.
Cliche, by the way. It's not
cliche. It's fine. Cliches. Yeah. Okay. All right. I just didn't want to. I didn't want to go dirty. Yeah. So I'm curious, what's the one when you're on the street that you hear like some random dude shout at you across the street?
Good question.
And then also, what's the one you wish he was shouting? What's one you tried to get off the ground that maybe didn't take off?
Oh, wow. Okay, that's good. I'll tell you what I got a lot of back in the 90s. And I got a lot of it from the Canucks. I used to be a reporter, used to go into their dressing room. And I didn't say it. Somebody else said it. When I was working at CKVU, they had a campaign for, I guess, about 10 years where they were called UTV. They somehow got Jerry Seinfeld to do a promo. I don't know if you guys remember it.
Yeah, I do.
He said, UTV, what's the deal with UTV? And every time I walked to the Canuck dressing room, especially Patty O'Neill, who's still their equipment manager, I'd hear it. UTV, what's the deal with UTV? All the time. But I'd have to say number one would be Top Shelf or Mom Keeps the Peanut Butter.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Of course.
That's great.
It was something my dad used to say.
Yeah.
And I just kind of used it, and then I would,
I want to
deviate off of it sometimes. But that was the one that I definitely. And then people would talk about, the one that I always liked was when I would mention uniform colors. I didn't get it a lot, but I'd say, the Canucks in their whole blue with the green and white trim, a little touch of silver in there. And the reason I say I like that is because Jim Robson used to say it, something like that at the start of every broadcast. So a lot of the things that, I said back in the day were a tribute to some of my favorite broadcasters. And obviously Jim, like so many of us, I looked up to him a lot. So that was just a little, he probably doesn't know that, but that was a little shout out to Jim because he used to say that stuff all the time.
That's cool. For me, it was left Habby, right Boolin.
Yeah.
I could not get enough. Like I'd be leaning forward in my chair waiting for it every time.
My favorite was he shoots hangers cars.
Yeah.
It's good. Yeah, the short skirts.
Can I get one of those right now? Let's hear it.
He says skirts. That was sort of like Barry McDonald and I used to goof around.
Oh my God.
There used to be this Maple Leafs announcer by the name of Bill Hewitt, and he was Foster Hewitt's son, and he used to do Leafs games, and it was like you could look him up on YouTube. Barry did a really good impersonation, but it was I saw me in this game. It's kind of
barely words.
Oh my God.
Making fun of him as well. Of course, Leafs, we got it every Saturday night.
Yeah.
Okay. I think we'll switch to Canucks talk now. Finally,
I guess.
We do have some Canucks questions for you, Donnie. But I'll just start off with a basic, simple question here. You've always mentioned that you want to watch or witness the Canucks win a cup
Yes.
in your lifetime. So my question is, or our question is, at this moment in time, do you feel more optimistic about that goal or pessimistic about it ever happening?
You guys have really prepared a lot of good questions. You know, Dhali should watch this and take some notes.
He's been on this show a few times. He was actually on our debut show, gave us a great tidbit to share, you know, and Dolly's the one who connected us, Donnie, right? So yeah. Remember I said you asked me to send him 2 bottles of Crown. I sent him 1 though, but
did you? Yeah.
one is enough for him. Come on.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah, it is, despite what he claimed. So what was the question again?
The question is, do you feel more optimistic or pessimistic about the Canucks' chances of winning a cup in your lifetime?
I would have to say pessimistic. And I say that because they've been trading away first round draft picks. I think they're going to be a better team. Winning a Stanley Cup, though, you do it by gathering first round draft picks and, hopefully winning while they're not making a ton of money. I mean, Tampa Bay, they've got a lot of their draft picks in there. Hedman and Kucherov and Vasilevsky, they're all draft picks. So there's that. But I think they're going to be better. I guess if I'm Jim Benning, I've got a couple of years left of my contract. This is what he's doing makes a lot of sense. But I don't think they're going to win a Stanley Cup anytime soon. Other teams like Detroit, and maybe even Arizona, but let's focus on Detroit because it's more realistic. We've seen that in our lifetimes. And all the draft picks they have and all the patience that Steve Yzerman and the fan base is showing, I think that's the way you do it. The Canucks are getting better. They're improved. I just don't know if they're going to win Stanley Cup.
How much is that to do with the Canucks fan base?
Sorry, I have to ask a follow-up before your question because it's about the draft picks. Would it surprise you, Donnie, to know that the Canucks actually have almost the same number of draft picks in their lineup as the Tampa Bay Lightning did when they started off on their cup run?
Yeah, right. So it would surprise me. Absolutely.
It's true. It's true.
They might have as many draft picks. Are they as high quality?
There you go. That's the difference.
So I'm not so sure about that.
You got me, Donnie.
Yeah, it does. It does surprise me. But let's not hold on a second here. Let's not compare the Canucks to the Tampa Bay.
I know.
Yeah,
Right.
Not anymore.
Not right now, anyway.
Back to back. Yeah, I mean, before the Stanley Cups, you probably could have, but
Yeah.
anyways.
Yeah.
Okay, so I mean, I was going to ask a question about the fan base, but let's put that on the side right
You
now.
know what? I think I know where you were going.
Yeah.
How much of that has to do with the fan base?
Yeah.
Yes, I know what you were thinking is that, like, you have to satisfy the fan base. It's so loyal. It turns out in big numbers. It listens and watches in big numbers. So you want to be competitive. See, I think that's wrong. I think the fan base, I think they were so worried about saying rebuild when Trevor Linden first came in. And I think the fan base wanted to hear that.
We were desperate.
What other teams?
Oh, we wanted it right away. Even with the Sedins in town, like Tortorella, I think all the fans agreed with Torts' assessment.
Yeah, they were stale. Let's hit the reset button and try to get this thing going and pick up some draft picks, other young players, get them while they're cheap, and away we go. And as opposed to this sea of mediocrity that has been going on for
the sea of granulins.
I was going to say sea of granulins, but I didn't want to. It's copyrighted, I think, so I didn't want to.
Is it really? No way.
It can't be.
No, it can't be. Yeah.
So talk about draft picks, though. Talking about draft picks, we got one right now who's making nobody gives a shit about him right now is Olli Juolevi. What's going on with Olli Juolevi? Is he getting waived? What?
Yeah, Rick, who's on top of everything, including bottles of Crown. he thinks there's something going on, that the agent, he hasn't been practicing or playing for a while now, for a few days, and so
they haven't waived him either. So obviously,
they haven't waived him. So are they trying to unload him? And if they do, what can they get for him at that point? And that's a tough one. Do you excuse Jim because some other draft picks other than Virtanen have been really, really good? I'm not so sure. It wouldn't be surprised. I wouldn't be surprised if he's Abbotsford bound or elsewhere in the NHL bound. It wouldn't surprise me or anybody.
I don't even think he gets
especially when you look at Rathbone and Madison Bowie's been pretty good, although he plays the other side.
Brad Hunt, though. Brad Hunt might be the reason why Juolevi's gone. He's just stepped in. He's playing a safe and secure game, which is great for Travis Green.
Dependable.
Yeah, and he likes that. And although he has been using Juolevi a lot, I always remember Trent Cull last year saying when we had him on our show that Juolevi was a beast for him. Actually, it wasn't Trent Cull, it was Ryan Johnson. a beast for the Comets on the PK.
Mhm.
And you notice some of his PK numbers in preseason, they've been playing him a lot of the penalty kill. So I haven't say I noticed anything great, but the time numbers are there. So
Mhm.
here's my thing with Juolevi is that Jake Virtanen, and look, you can't help but compare the two.
Mhm.
And I'm sure you guys will agree with this. Was it a bad choice? You have to say yes right now.
Absolutely.
But there were moments where you said to yourself, oh, wow, look at that power, that speed, that shot. That's why they drafted him. There were moments when you could kind of get it, especially when you saw him live. Has there been anything like that with Juolevi where you said, wow, that's why I get it now. There's been just nothing really.
Yeah.
I mean, his goals have been from long range, and and all due respect, just to be where he is unbelievable.
Yeah.
Relatively speaking. But there hasn't been a moment where you've said, okay, that's the guy they drafted.
I want to ask you, I don't know if you know this or if it's true or whether or not you want to say it, but I heard that there was an issue between Keith Kachuk and Trevor Linden when they were at the NHLPA, that kind of Keith was involved in forcing Linden out of the NHLPA or whatnot. And that's why Linden didn't want to draft Matthew Kachuk.
Okay. I'm like you. I heard that. And I have nothing, I've heard a lot of Canucks over the years, but that's one that I've heard, but have never had confirmed. They did need a defenseman. Like when you look back, they did need a defenseman. Mm-hmm. And it was a mistake not to take Kachuk. I think we can all agree on that, but also a mistake to not take Chychrun, Sergachev.
Yes.
Right. I think McAvoy was in that draft as well, but I don't think he was rated as high. Mm-hmm. But Sergachev, Jake Bean, I want to say, Chychrun, we're definitely up there. So if they were looking for a defenseman, they could have been better. I don't know if you guys remember the mock drafts early on, or the TSN rankings, they had Chychrun really high. Yeah. And then he flipped that year.
And he's turned out to be great.
Turns out, they're talking about him being on Team Canada now. And obviously,
16 goals last year. I mean, it's hard to imagine he wouldn't be on that team right now.
Yeah, no kidding. I want to take it to another Canuck for you, Donnie, and just get your sense of this. I know a lot was made of JT Miller, after having a good first season with the Canuck, trying to do a bit too much, like a lot of the Canucks were last year because they want to win. In my kind of view, I've seen a bit of the same from Hoglander. He's had some flashes of brilliance, but is this a case of just getting his legs under him in the preseason, or do you think have you seen what I'm seeing, and do you think there's anything to worry about there? Is it just because there's a tremendous amount of pressure on him, or what's your sense of it?
Still not used to 21. So
yeah. Oh my God.
It's Mason Raymond out there.
Play caller's nightmare.
Yeah. Yeah, he doesn't look like Louis, so that.
No, that's true. That's true. Yeah. Or Raymond.
I don't know. I always.
No, he might look like Louis this year, though.
Don't start.
Louis going to win the Hart Trophy. That would be great.
Oh my God.
Can't miss. Yeah, but no, I think like with Hoglander, I think that I always have the time of day for somebody who works his ass off, who hustles, and he hustles a lot. Does. And you don't see the bad. And I like JT. I love JT Miller as a hockey player. I hate his body language, and you don't see
right. Him and Petey have awful body language.
Yeah, I agree. And that's a big thing. You talk about coaching minor hockey. I can't stand that. With the bad body language, because I think it brings the whole team down. Especially when it comes from a leader. But he's a great hockey player.
Yes.
I think with Hoglander, I think there's always hustle there, and a whole lot of skill. And for him for Travis Green to put him in the top 6, even though the lineup wasn't the strongest last year, I think that says something. I think he'll be just fine. I think he's going to stick there.
I agree.
Let's talk about Tucker Pullman for a second. There was a lot of hoopla made about that contract. 2.5 million, 4 years.
Yeah.
Some went as far as saying it might be the worst contract of the offseason, not just for the Canucks, but in the entire NHL. I want to ask you, has your opinion changed on that at all? And not that you were on the negative side or whatnot, but just has your opinion changed on the deal and the player, having witnessed him now in the preseason and just seeing his influence on not only OEL, but also Quinn Hughes last game?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Sorry, my dog's making noise here. When you talk about him when the contract first came out, and I don't think anybody had a problem with 2.5. They had a problem with 4. They had a problem with the term, especially given what's happened with other players, and the length of their contracts versus what they were making. It just seems to be a trend with this this regime. But I really didn't have a problem with it because I didn't know. I didn't really know much about him.
Mm-hmm.
Now you talk about minor hockey. We have a parent that's involved in Port Moody minor hockey who's a huge Jets fan from Winnipeg, the whole bit.
Okay.
He told me, like, he said, hey, you guys are gonna like this. People in Winnipeg really like him. Like the hardcore Winnipeg, hard ass, know-it-all hockey fan really liked Tucker Pullman and didn't want to see him go. That sort of that opened my eyes. And then when you see him, the thing that hits me with him is he seems really sound defensively and really smart offensively. He's not Bobby Orr.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he's not Quinn Hughes,
Mm-hmm.
but it seems like he has a real good eye for moving the puck, making that first pass. So far, so good. And this could all change, but
Yeah.
I think there's a reason why, they've decided to put Hughes with him versus Shen, which probably wouldn't have been a good idea anyway. There's nothing against Luke, but not at this stage of his career.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I think there's a reason for that. I think he's been a lot better than people thought. And there's size there too.
Yeah. Travis Green called him long, right?
Yeah.
But I mean, I think it was
That's
good in the
great.
sense that they put out Hughes and Pullman against McDavid and Draisaitl last
Yeah.
game, and
Yeah.
that's not a negative thing by any stretch, right? That's kind of saying, okay, show us what you can do, and they did a good job. Those guys got
And
their
Pullman
points on
shut
the power
down
play.
McDavid in the playoffs.
Yeah.
He was playing against him with Morrissey,
That's
right?
right.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it looks like it could be. Can we say steal? I mean, it's really early.
we can't say steal with Jim Benning, apparently. Not in this
We need
market.
a few of those.
I don't know, what am I thinking?
Fair market
Yeah.
value.
Yeah. Okay, let's go with that.
That's fantastic.
Sat, you got one there.
Yeah, I'm just trying to pull it up here, but I guess one thing that I'm kind of interested in this season is how well Garland's going to fit in with the top six. So far in the preseason, it seemed to me that they're still trying to figure out where he's going to fit. I think everyone had him penciled in on the second line, but now with there's an injury to Sutter and the centers are all mixed up. I'm kind of a bit more hesitant as to where he's going to fit on the team, and I don't know what you think there, Donnie, and like where's he going to go?
Well, I've seen some, practice lines. You see him the other day. I believe he practiced on the first line with Pedersen on the left side as a right-hander, which I hadn't seen before. So it's obvious they're really experimenting with him. Another day he was on the third line. Well, that's a $5 million third line right winger, or 4.95, whatever the case may be. Again, there's a guy that hustles, agitates. So I think there's always going to be something to his game. But I think right now it's a matter of finding that fit and figuring out what side he's going to play on and who he fits with. Look, Pedersen just got here. So who knows? Maybe he's a fit with him, although maybe you want a little more bulk with number 40 there. But I just found that really interesting the other day when he was on the left side at practice. So obviously he's being experimented with by Travis Green. But I think that's a guy with hustle, with a lot of desire in his game. So I'm not as concerned about him.
And there's another player, Nick Batan, who's done a great job so far, I think, in the preseason. And it's kind of, I would say he's a lock to make the Canucks now. And that was probably one of those signings that people thought that he wouldn't even have a chance. Yeah, exactly.
Abbotsford.
But I mean, I think with the injuries, he's done a great job. So where do you think he can fit on this team?
Well, I would think he would be bottom six, obviously. I think a lot of people you talk about, again, we go back to minor hockey. I don't know if you guys remember him at North Shore Winter Club and Delta back in the day. He was just a phenom. People would go out of their way to whatever arena and whatever, suburb and go watch the guy. He was just phenomenal, great junior career as well. Craig Button feels that he's not fast enough for the NHL level, but there's still something there. I found it really interesting that he was given a lot. I keep going back to penalty killing time, but he was given a lot of PK time over the last 2 or 3 games by Travis Green. So obviously he's serious about keeping him because he needs that. Having lost, Beagle, Roussel, now Sutter, now Mott, he needs penalty killers. And I found it really interesting that he's obviously serious about keeping him in some sort of role. The other thing, if he's a bottom six guy, if that happens, depending on what happens with Sutter and Mott, I always felt the last, 2, 3, 4 years that bottom six could use somebody with some offensive touch.
Yeah.
Just somebody.
Absolutely.
You teed me up perfectly.
A goal.
Yeah.
You know, and so he could be that guy.
Yeah.
He could be that guy. He looked so comfortable out there in that smart tip in play last night.
Yeah.
From Henderson on the power play. He could play power play. They're trying him on the PK.
Yeah.
I think there's some sort of a role for him, even if it's a secondary role. I think there's a job for him, especially with these injuries.
I couldn't agree more either.
I
Donnie,
totally-
oh, go ahead.
I just have
Sorry,
one more
Ryan.
question here. Sorry,
Yeah,
I
go ahead,
just
go
wanted to ask, just because you're talking about that bottom six, and I couldn't agree more. They do lack a little bit of offensive punch, and I think something that's been talked about with this team is we've got Henderson, we've got Bo Horvat, and we've got JT Miller that are able to play that position. What are your thoughts about maybe if that bottom six struggles to generate offense, perhaps moving JT Miller down, giving another younger player an opportunity to play on that top line, and really having three lines that can put the puck in the net?
Yeah, I think that you're going to see a lot of experimenting this year.
Yeah.
And that maybe their eyes were open because of Henderson's injury last year and Miller playing center. And he was pretty darn effective.
He was.
Even with the body language. But so I always wonder, like, guys, like when you're watching games, and look, I'm coaching minor hockey. What do I know? Okay. And, you know, all of that. But I always wonder, like, why do you know, if you're hurting, why do you trot out the same look all the time? You know, even with the power play or your line combinations, change it up. And if you've got a guy like Miller who can really be effective and strong on the left wing or at center, change it up every once in a while. And I think too, it's not only of screwing up the opposition, but kind of waking your own club up as well. And I'm not trying to tell Travis what to do, but if you're listening, Travis, you know, take note.
Of course he listens to us. Yeah.
Of course he does. Yeah.
Okay, so Donnie, I know you got to run and coach practice here. So
keep going, guys.
Oh, you're okay up for time? Great. You know why? Because I was gonna skip out on this question, but I wanted to really ask you this one. So I'm glad you got a little bit more time for us. I heard a story, and apparently it's one that you love to tell. A little bit of a change of pace here, but I really wanted to, because it might connect with a lot of our listeners in particular. It's a story about, you know, you and your brothers in the neighborhood back in the day. And I heard a story of how you taught a neighborhood brown kid how to play hockey, street hockey. If you don't mind, do you want to share that story?
Are we talking about Zanin?
I actually haven't heard it before. But it was, you know, I asked a couple friends about, you know, maybe there's something that we could ask you. And this was something that came up, and I'm really intrigued by the story. So it might be Zanin. Yeah.
We had a backyard. We had this massive backyard. I didn't come from money at all. My dad was a machinist, mechanic, and you know, my mom was a cook and all that. But we had a really big yard. We had this really awesome old house and a huge yard. And we made a ball hockey rink in the backyard. So all the neighborhood kids used to come and play. And my brother, who's passed on now, was kind of in charge of the neighborhood, kind of in charge of the hockey and all that. And a lot of ball hockey and lacrosse was played there. One day we were there. This is years and years ago. And there was this Italian kid in the neighborhood, just moved in. Came along, and he was kind of kicking a rock, had a hockey stick in his hand in the lane, and it was obvious he wanted to play. And my brother went out. It was more my brother than me. I was younger, and he invited him in, and he, you know, started playing hockey and got really, really good. We ended up forming a ball hockey team called the Burnaby Beavers, Canadian champions, BC champions.
Wow,
we're really a great group of people. And so that player was a guy by the name of George Zanin, who was Ryan, an Alpha legend, real tough guy.
Nice. Okay.
Real tough guy. So, and he would take on anybody, but he was also really good. And my brother would always say when we were playing in these competitive games, if that guy could skate, he'd be in the NHL.
Wow.
So what happens? His kid makes the NHL. Greg Zanin. You remember him with the big red beard?
I do.
Yeah.
No way.
Oh, wow. That's his son. Oh, his father. Okay.
He had another son named Brad who also played very high level hockey, played out at UBC, BCHL, the whole bit. So, you know, hats off to my brother. He wasn't George who made the NHL, but his kids did. And it was a real special time in my life, not just because of that story, but just that whole backyard. ending up with a really good group of guys and being really successful. But yeah, it was more my brother than me who didn't really make the discovery, but made a really good observation.
That's a great story. Wow.
So speaking of performing at a high level, I know one of the highlights for me in the career of you was your time with Barry McDonald. I just wanted to see, I know you guys talk quite a bit about how you're still in touch with him. How's he doing? Are we ever going to see him return in any form? Because I know it's a tough one for him with everything he's going through, but he's so incredibly missed in this market, and we're so passionate every time his name comes up. I'm tuned right in.
Yeah. Speaking of good storytellers.
No kidding.
He's older than me, which is hard to believe, but he's older than me. So he's not coming back. He's not going to come back for a regular gig, in large part mostly because of what he's going through right now. But also, he's at an age now where, he would probably feel no matter what, it might be time to hang him up. But I think he's really happy. He's got a really good life going right now, dealing with some issues that are well documented. And I've golfed with him 2 or 3 times in the summer, and it was great as always. One of the biggest responses, one of the best days we've had so far on our show on Donnie and Dhali was when we had him on. It was the first time he's been on radio or TV of any kind, for years. And the response we got was incredible. We introduced him as Tony Gallagher. And
I was just going to say, he had to have done the Tony G impression, because that is the stuff of legend.
You have to be a hardcore Vancouverite to get that shtick.
It's true. It's so good, especially when you guys trick somebody in an interview to thinking they're on an interview, like with Tony G. That stands as one of the greatest moments in local sports radio, as far as I'm concerned. So good.
He did a whole interview with Terry David Mulligan about.
There you go.
It wasn't even about sports, and to this day, I don't think Terry has realized that it wasn't Tony. It was Barry doing Tony. And it was just,
that is. I still go back and listen to clips of that, and I'm in tears. Between that and you saying, "Ladies and gentlemen, Barry McDonald has left the studio," or pardon me, David Pratt has left the studio. Those are the two quintessential moments for me. Yeah, the poker. We still, you should know, Don, that still comes up in my friend group weekly.
Oh, all the time. I watch that on YouTube like once a year at least.
Yeah. Well, if you ever talk to my wife, she'll tell you that I can be a real asshole. And I was at my best that day, and I just wasn't going to let Pratt. I just didn't agree with what he said, and he didn't like the fact that he had prepared this little
the Pratt's rant,
Pratt rant thing, and I didn't. So he was mad that I ruined his preparation. I don't know. It was so outrageous. Like he was.
You were right.
Doyle Brunson to Tom Watson. Tom Watson almost won the British Open. He wasn't sitting down.
Doyle Brunson sit for 8 hours. Come on, man.
Doyle Brunson could not even walk a course.
Does Pratt ever tell you ahead of time what his rant's going to be about, or was it just on a whim? Oh wow.
Okay. In fact, I walked into the studio as he was doing it.
Oh, okay.
So I was doing 2 jobs at the time and 3 kids. It was just crazy.
Yeah.
And he's got this rant going, oh, that's interesting. Tom Watson, he's paying, and then he's comparing him to 45 playing the playoffs. Okay, yeah, that makes sense. And there was somebody else, Jimmy Connors at 39 USO. Okay, yeah. Doyle Brunson at the World Series. What? So I let him have it, and then Dave, as only Dave can, lost it on me.
Yep.
I didn't let up, and he left the studio. Dave was such a big shot at that. He was let's be honest.
Yeah.
He was the star of 1040 for a long time. He was just awesome. He owned that station. So he leaves the studio. I get suspended. So Pratt's left the studio. And our boss comes up and goes, hey, you got to take the rest of the day off, and tomorrow you're suspended.
Wow.
I'm still in the studio. Dave's left. Anyway, he got suspended too.
Oh my God.
People thought it was a shtick. And it wasn't. It was really ugly.
What's worse?
How long did it take you to
what's worse though? What's worse, Pratt's rants or Moja's name drops?
Oh God. Oh God, that's a tie.
That's a tie.
That's a tie.
Oh God. Yeah. So after that whole thing with Pratt, how long did it take before you guys spoke again?
We right away, and I think because we were older at the time, think I was in, I don't know how old I was, early 40s or whatever, and Dave was in his, and we'd been through a lot. So we realized things like that are going to happen. You're in that small room for hours on end, 5 days a week. It's like, it's your brother, it's your relative, and you're going to get on each other's nerves. And I know the way I can be sometimes. And we shook it out and got back to work and had some fun with it. And Dave I learned so much off Dave. He is a really underrated broadcaster. He really is. Not at the time, everybody loved him, but he stirred the pot like nobody. Just full of himself and but informed. And he was awesome, great voice. I wish anybody who has a voice like that is going to do fairly well in broadcasting. Just really, I learned a lot about it. And the other thing with Dave is conviction.
Yeah.
Like, yes. Oh yeah. He believes he's right. So,
and like Doyle Brunson, it's a real tough job to compete physically in the World Series of Poker, and he believed it.
Yeah.
He just such conviction, and he wouldn't let up, and it was part of his brilliance.
I'll say this about Dave too. He did help us out a lot when we had him on our show in the first season, and then before we got on to 650 there last season, he gave us some good tips, good advice, and so we owe him a lot for that. He's a good guy at heart.
Yes.
He also went through some tough times too, and glad to see him rebound from that as well too. So.
Absolutely, absolutely. Everybody in broadcasting seems to be going through tough times, but relatively speaking, we're doing okay.
Yeah. Oh, we all still passionate about the one common factor here, and that's the game of hockey. There you go.
Agreed. Agreed. Always.
We can't have you on the show, Donnie, without mentioning the jeans at the wedding. Mm-hmm. Now, before I get into that, I want to ask you, what's worse, wearing jeans at a wedding or wearing a suit to a pool party?
Ooh, a suit to a pool party.
That's a baller move.
Party. What time of? I don't know who did it here, but what time of year is this?
Oh, a pool party. Come on.
July or something?
Summertime, right?
Summer pool party.
Good weather.
Oh, I'm going suit at a pool party because you're going to be storm.
That's an awful choice. Yeah.
At least okay. You look bad, but you're comfortable. So I'm going suit at the pool party. Not even close. I don't know what I was thinking that day.
That's what I wanted to ask you. What were you thinking? You're getting ready for a wedding. It's Ryan Henderson, right? Your coach, your show's producer / kind of co-host. You put on some jeans? Like what's going through your head?
I'm not a great dresser. I really look at me. I'm not a great dresser, and I don't know. I thought it looked good. My wife, we've been married so long, she doesn't even care what I wear. Like she's like, whatever. And so she didn't say anything. Whereas I think I'm blaming her. Most wives would have said something.
Yeah, you got to stop them. Yeah.
I didn't have dress shoes on, so there is that. But
okay.
I should have clued in when nobody else at the wedding had jeans on. It was a bad.
Were they Kirkland jeans?
So there's that.
As long as were they like Kirkland jeans or something like that, or?
I think you know what they were. Well, no, they weren't Kirkland.
Yes.
I think they were a bootlegger.
Oh, that's a little bit better. Like you say bootlegger, and there's like that's pretty.
I was gonna say there's. You know what? They must be an old pair then. It must be one of your.
There's still bootleggers in malls.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, there's still bootleggers. Yeah, absolutely.
It's right beside the Randy River in Coquitlam.
I worked at Randy River growing up. I was an assistant.
That explains why they're not around anymore.
Let me tell you, Donnie. I sold so many orange zip-off parachute pants and button-down shirts with dragons. You have no idea. Yeah. I actually feel bad for what I did to the community.
Oh, man.
I was more of a big steel guy.
Yes, my store was across the street from Stitches, which was like the cheap FUBU knockoff brand. So you either had Randy River for the white boys or like the Stitches for everybody.
Okay, we're getting off the rails here, but all right. So the final thing we're going to ask you, Donnie, the final question. Just give us your expectations. I'll take it back to the Canucks here because we had a lot of laughs, but we want to just one last thing we want to ask you here. What are your final expectations for the Canucks this year? So what do you expect them to do, and what do you hope for them to achieve? And obviously we all want them to win a cup, but realistically that may not be the case this year. It'd be a surprise to a lot of us. So what do you expect them to do, and what do you hope for them to achieve?
Expect would be weak division, third place, knocked off by Edmonton in the first round. What would I hope them to do?
But we got Tucker Pullman. We can take down McDavid.
There you go. Perfect. What I would hope for them to do is win one round.
Okay.
And maybe if that's against Edmonton and Pullman does a job against that, we're making Pullman sound like the next company.
He's Niedermeyer over here.
But if they knock off, if they win one playoff series,
Yeah.
I would hope for that. But realistically, make the playoffs, get knocked off by Edmonton or Vegas.
Well, Tucker Pullman's the Doyle Brunson of the NHL, right? So
Yeah.
If they knock off
You can only
Edmonton in the
hope.
first, yeah, right. If they knock off Edmonton in the first round, wouldn't you love to be a fly on the wall in that dressing room after?
Oh my gosh, which one?
Yeah, take your pick.
Well, my question is, where would the riot start?
yeah,
Yeah.
there you go.
You know, what do you think?
I think that would have definitely be right outside. What is it? Is it White Ave they have there? Or?
It'd be a riot parade from Edmonton to Vancouver.
We've got the market cornered on those.
Oh
We do,
yeah.
yeah.
So that's it for the show today, Donnie. Thank you again so much
Thank
for
you.
joining us, and
Thank you.
also making the time, rearranging your schedule. You know, that means a lot to us, Donnie, and I can't say that enough. You know, we're just a bunch of young, bucks here, just passionate for the team, and wanted to, we were excited about the opportunity to have you on our pod. We had you on our show first debut there, but to have you on our pod like this in this kind of candid way, and for you to rearrange your schedule for us, I can't tell you how much that means to us. So thank you
I
so
know
much.
you're paying me, so I'm okay.
Checks in the mail. Checks in the mail.
We do want to send you a gift though, Donnie. So send me a text of your address after. I'm going to send you something.
Yeah,
nice.
don't send her your address. Send it to Dolly.
He's just gonna be cruising.
Wasn't
by
that
every
crowd?
night in
I
Vegas.
sent the crowd to Rick. I'm going to send Donnie
Box. Yeah.
But no, really appreciate it,
I'll
Donnie.
take that Bertuzzi jersey in the back there. That'd be just.
We
fun.
got it signed by Todd too there.
Really?
When we had, yeah.
It's funny. I've never seen a play. I can't remember a player in. I know I'm going on here, guys, but a Canucks player who went from like the lowest moment possible to still being like so popular in this.
Of
market.
course.
Yeah.
He's a, we were all there like as fans, his entire journey as a player, but then that during the tough times, we all witnessed everything that happened to him and how emotional it was. And, the response was due to what happened to Naslin, of course. So we all had this connection to the team, to Naslin, to the player, to Bertuzzi, his unfortunate incident. And yeah, I mean, throughout that all, he stayed humble. He went through a lot of tough times. I think Wayne Gretzky, when he was on our show, he told us how Wayne Gretzky inviting him to Team Canada meant the world to him.
Yeah.
It really kind of lifted him up, lifted his spirits up. And, we're fans of the team. We're fans of the Canucks, and he is one of the best Canucks of all time, right?
Well,
So-
I think people, and talent wise, no question about it. I never forget the first time.
well, human wise too, just the guy himself.
Yeah, well, I think people tend to be attracted towards people who are like very talented like him, but they've got a flaw, or they're flawed, like
Mhm.
all of us, right? They're not perfect, and
To
that
err
was-
is human,
was the case with Todd in 2004. That jersey would be better, by the way, if it was 27. That's the one you want.
The
27.
yeah, the rookie number was it? Yeah,
Canucks.
yeah.
Yeah,
And
work
if it
on
was
that.
salmon colored.
Yeah,
Well, thanks for putting me down now, Donnie.
just trying to help.
Trying to help you.
Yeah.
Next time.
Okay, so that's it for the show today.
All right. Lots
Go
of
ha-
fun, guys.
Go have a great practice with your team there. Thank you everybody for listening. We'll be back with more LarschCast season 3. We're doing it better and bigger than ever, everybody. Good night. Thank you for listening.